Paper is separated in two parts, so you have two main passages that we are going to read, and after we read these passages, there are questions that we will need to answer in regards of each passages respectively. Okay, so for the first passage, it is called coconuts. All right, and just before we start reading the passage, I would actually like to take a look at the questions. I encourage you to do the same while you're doing the papers, is to just take a look at the questions and see what you're going to be asked, so that while you read the passage, you can highlight things, important information, like you see I did here, so that it saves time for later, right? So the first question related to the coconuts passage, question 1A, is going to be asking us to identify and write down how coconut trees and coconuts are used and the problems associated to the production of coconut trees and coconuts as outlined in the passage. So here there are two main things that this question is looking for. So this question is looking for us to answer how coconut trees and coconuts are used. So how are they used? And also the problems that are associated or related, in other words, with the production of coconut trees and coconuts themselves. So while we're going to be reading the passage, we want to keep those two things in mind. And I also identified them in different colors so that I can highlight in different colors so your eyes can easily tell what information is related to what question. Part B of question 1 is asking us to write a summary of our findings in question 1A. So in this section here, there's not really much to look out for in the passage itself because that's already covered in part A. So for the first passage, the second question, which is the last question related to the passage, is asking us to reread paragraphs 4, 5, and 6 and give one opinion from each of these paragraphs. So here, using the color blue, it's clear that whatever will be highlighted in blue is going to be an opinion that we will notice in the paragraphs. Okay, and again, a thing that I like to make note of is it is not our personal opinion, but we have to identify a opinion that is going to be found in paragraphs 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so after I did that, I come back to the passage itself, and I also write in each respective color what I'm looking for. So if I forget while I'm reading, I don't have to go back to the question and look. Everything's right up here for me to have access. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're just going to read the passage. Coconut trees are grown in more than 90 countries in the world, with 61 million tons of coconuts being produced every year. There is a long tradition in coconut producing countries of using them to make food. So there's the key word. Every time you see using, this word using or use, you know that you're probably going to highlight in red because it's a use of coconut trees. Okay, going on. For example, coconut oil is used for frying and making margarine, while desiccated coconut or coconut milk is added to curries and other savory dishes. And the fleshy part of coconut is used in confectionery and desserts. Drink, as well as food, is manufactured from coconuts. Sap is taken from the tree's flowers and made into a drink called toddy, which can be either alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Coconut oil added to shower gels and shampoos, as well as shells ground down and added to skin products, are only two ways in which coconuts are used in the beauty industry. The leaves of coconut tree are woven together to thatch roofs and provide a cheap alternative to other types of material. Additionally, timber from coconut trees is utilized to make houses and boats, and whole tree trunks are used to build small bridges and huts, being preferred to other wood because the coconut trunk is straighter and stronger than many other trees. However, coconut trees are ecologically sound alternatives to other wood which may be endangered. A strong fiber called coir, which comes from coconut husks, is ideal for manufacturing use. It also has the advantage of being waterproof and is one of the few natural fibers resistant to damage by seawater. Brown coir, which comes from ripe coconuts, is used. Again, this word used is repeated so many times. Used. Where else? My eyes are playing tricks. Using there. So you see that this word using, use, it says everywhere in the text. So every time you see used, already you know, okay, where's my red pen? I can just highlight, right? So where were we? Yeah, comes from ripe coconuts, is used in the manufacture of upholstery and sacking, while white coir, which comes from unripe coconuts, is made into string, rope, and fishing nets. Coconuts have particular significance in some societies where they are used in certain religious ceremonies. In Hinduism, they are sometimes decorated with symbols of good fortune. In various places, fishermen may offer coconuts to a sea god at the start of a fishing season. Coconuts have cultural importance in some countries where they appear in coats of arms or are displayed as national emblems, for example, in the Maldives. Okay? However, although demand for coconuts has reached an unprecedented, this is a pretty tricky word, so the way you pronounce this is unprecedented. So again, however, although demand for coconuts has reached an unprecedented level in some parts of the world, there are problems associated with their production. In some countries, a new kind of bacteria is wiping out coconut trees. Okay, so now you see that we're starting to label in purple, because now we're getting down to problems of production of coconut trees. So the first half of the text, you'll notice a pattern like this in certain passages where you'll see that if you look at the passage itself, the first part is mostly in red, and then the second part is mostly in purple, because they usually divide the information like that. So if you were to identify something in red up here, you know that probably most of the things that you'll find around that red label will be red as well. And another thing is, here we're talking about positive use, and then as soon as you reach this word here, however is a transition word that shows contrast. So this part of the text was positive, and then you see however, you're like, oh, okay, now we're switching the course of the text and things will probably get negative. So already just by this word, you know that problems are coming up. Okay, so let's go on. We were here. In some countries, a new kind of bacteria is wiping out coconut trees. And although this isn't happening in the biggest coconut producing countries, it is an ominous sign for the rest of the world. Seeds of various fruits can be stored in vaults in case of future disease or shortage, but seed vaults are less successful with coconut seeds than with other fruits, as their water content is much higher. Coconut trees take around 5 years to mature, which means at least 5 years between each generation of trees. This slows down coconut production compared to a crop like corn, which matures in just a few months. Coconut trees grow to over 25 meters high, which makes harvesting them by hand very dangerous. In some plantations, monkeys have been trained to perform this task because of their speed and agility, although using animals in this way is undoubtedly cruel. Okay, so here we see that I highlighted in blue. And the reason why is because, again, up here, I know that in paragraph 4, 5, and 6, I'm looking for an opinion. So as I'm reading, here when I read that monkeys are being trained to perform a task because of their speed and agility, and then I see although, so here although tells me that this word is contrasting again. So although means that we're going to see a contradiction with what was just said. So although using animals in this way is undoubtedly cruel. So undoubtedly, this word, it means that, everybody thinks that using monkeys is cruel. So this means that it's a 100% sure that using monkeys is cruel. So then you say, okay, seems like an opinion to me, because some people are doing it and they don't seem to mind. So I marked that down in blue quickly. Okay, moving forward. Most coconut growers are small-time farmers, so they don't have money to invest in seed vaults. In other industries, for example, palm oil production, big companies usually pay for this and other research, but this is not the case with coconuts. Fair trade programmers ensure a fair wage for those engaged in the tea, coffee, and chocolate industries. However, initiatives designed to help workers in the coconut industry are slow to filter through. obviously, so again, this word obviously means that everybody knows this. It's so obvious. So obviously, everyone hopes the situation will change in the near future. So then again, to me, this is an opinion, because to say everyone hopes, is it a fact or an opinion? I think it's an opinion, because unless you're telling me that you asked about 7 billion people on this earth to fact check this, I don't think that happened. So you can't say everyone, because you're just not sure. How can you check this, that everyone in the world? So yes, an opinion again. Okay. Much is made of the health benefits of coconut products, with advertisers claiming that they are good sources of antioxidants. So again, this word is pretty tricky, antioxidants. However, it is clear that some people are being taken in by clever marketing, because, in fact, coconut products contain lower levels of antioxidants than vegetables and other fruit. Okay, so here again, I spotted an opinion, because however, so we have contrast again, and then it is clear. So here you notice again, obviously, it is clear, undoubtedly. Those are very strong affirmations. So those are very strong things to say. It is clear that some people are being taken in by clever marketing. So this is very much an opinion, because this statement is hard to fact check. Okay. So moving forward, dietitians warn that coconut oil contains even higher levels of saturated fats than butter. It is likely to increase bad cholesterol, the kind which causes heart disease and stroke. 1 cup of unsweetened coconut contains many calories, which means that too much coconut consumption is likely to result in weight gain. Okay. All right. So there's also a few things that I wanted to discuss about this last paragraph. Okay, so here we talk about the health benefits of coconuts. And the reason why I personally did not highlight anything in purple is because if we remember up here in purple, it's telling us that we want to highlight problems of production. So we're specifically talking about the production of coconuts and coconut trees. So what makes the production hard? When in paragraph 6, we're seeing much more information about health benefits. So we're not specifically talking about making coconut or coconut trees. We're talking about what effects coconuts have on us, right? Humans. So that's why you don't see any purple here, because when I read it at first glance, I'm like, okay, it doesn't have anything to do with production specifically. And another thing I wanted to mention is at first glance as well, some people may think that this last line here is an opinion. So 1 cup of unsweetened coconut contains many calories, which means that too much coconut consumption is likely to result in weight gain. So the problem here that makes this sentence not an opinion is because the writer uses likely. So likely means probably. So they're not really saying something directly. It's like saying it might rain tomorrow, or it is likely that it rains tomorrow, or it can probably rain tomorrow. There's a difference between saying that and saying, I think 100% that it will rain tomorrow. So you see, it's a little bit tricky. So if you originally thought that this was an opinion, it's I don't blame you, because it seems like it, but in reality it is not. Okay, so that was the reading of passage 1, coconuts. We move on to answering the questions. So this is where things get fun. Question 1A. So we're talking about the use of coconut trees, production, problems with production of coconut trees. And then of course we have to read this here just to know the restrictions that we have with answering this question. So use material from the whole passage. At this stage, you do not need to use your own words. So we don't need to use our own words, which makes our life easier. Use note form to help you get started. The first point in each section of the notes is done for you. You may find it helpful to use bullet points. So we don't have to write complete sentences. We can use bullet points, which is great. Saves time. You will be awarded up to 12 marks. So 12 marks for each, 12 marks for the whole section. But here we have two things. They're looking for two information specifically, right? So it means that the 12 mark is going to be divided into what we do here. And I believe they're pretty lenient on this. So if you have 7 good things here and then 5 good things here, that's okay. Or you could do 6 points, 6 points. It's up to you. But for the sake of this video, I'll just write down information equally. So 6 and 6 down here. Okay, so what I do now, and what you would be able to do if you use the method that I just showed you, all you have to do now is to just copy and paste the information accordingly. So how coconut trees are used, our first point. So here, let's take a look at what I highlighted. Used for frying and making margarine. Perfect. Just copy that. Coconuts. So here I had to go back a little bit. So coconut oil is used for frying and making margarine. Second point, let's take a look. Coconut milk is added to curries and other savory dishes. Oops. Savory, trying to save space. Dishes. Oops, can't see here. Okay, third point. fleshy part of the coconut. I'll skip this one here. You know, you can pick and choose because we have a lot to choose from, right? So what am I going to take next? So here we have, you know, coconut is used to make drinks, right? So I'll just use that point here. Coconuts. Manufactured from coconuts. Drinks are manufactured from coconuts. The fourth point, coconut oil added to shower gels and shampoos, and then added to skin products. So there again. Coconut oil is added to shower gels and, oops, not sure if you can write and like this. So this is just and, or to be more formal, let's just write and shampoos. Fifth point, skin products, shells ground down. I'll just skip this one. Okay, I'll take this. So the leaves of coconut tree are woven together to thatch roofs. So leaves of the coconut tree are woven together. I'll use two lines together to thatch roofs. So just some simple copy and pasting from the text. 6. So here, timber from coconut trees is utilized to make houses and boats. So here, I'll use this point here, but shorten it a little bit. So timber from coconut trees is used to make houses and boats. Okay, so there already we have half the marks because we have 6 valid points of how coconuts and coconut trees are used. Next part, problems associated with the production of coconut trees and coconuts. So here I'll just start back from 1. Okay. In some countries, a new kind of bacteria is wiping out coconut trees. So that makes it very tough, because if we're planting trees and a bacteria is killing them, then it means that it's making the whole process of production harder, right? So let's write that down. A new kind of bacteria is wiping out cocoa trees. I'll just write cocoa trees. Okay, second point. Seed vaults are less successful with coconut seeds. So that's another thing that makes it hard. Seed vaults are less, are less successful with coconut seeds. Again, cocoa seeds. Three. Coconut trees take around 5 years to mature. And here in this part of the text, so we saw that it's in comparison to other crops like corn, right? Corn matures in just a few months. So coconut trees take a long time to mature. So that's another problem with production. So cocoa trees take around 5 years to mature. Oops. Gotta fix this here. So sure. 4. Coconut trees grow to over 25 meters high, which makes harvesting them by hand very dangerous. So here we would need to do a little bit of summarizing. It's long. So how can we put this? So I think I will say cocoa trees grow over 25 meters high. And I'll finish this here, so period, and then I'll start my next statement. They are dangerous. To harvest by hand. Okay. 5th point. Most coconut growers are small-time farmers, so they don't have money to invest in seed vaults. So most cocoa growers are small time farmers. And then here they don't, I'll say they don't have much money. They don't have much money. And everybody knows no money means more problems. Okay. But it's also important. More money doesn't mean more happiness. But anyway, that's another topic. Back to the passage. Our last and sixth point about problems in relation to coconut production. It's here. Initiatives designed to help workers in coconut industry are slow to filter through. This is a long one. So initiatives, I'll kind of make this a little shorter. Initiatives to help cocoa industry workers, cocoa industry, oopsies, workers are slow to, sorry guys, we're gonna get there, are slow to filter through. Okay, and there we have it. So we have 6 relevant points for each section. So here, without a doubt, you would get your full 12 marks for question 1A. So that is done. Moving on to part B. So now here, part B, move this out the way. So in part B, we are being asked to use our notes from 1A to write a summary of how coconut trees and coconuts are used and the problems associated with the production of coconut trees and coconuts. If only we had $1 for every time we said coconut in this video, I would be rich. Moving forward, use your own words as far as possible. You will be awarded marks for producing a piece of writing which is relevant, well organized, and easy to follow. Your summary must be in continuous writing, not note form. So here we can't use bullet points. You are advised to write between 150 and 180 words, including the words given below. So they start the summary here for us. As well as having many uses in food manufacturing, coconuts. Interesting. So here, based on these words that we have, this section here is already summarizing. So as well as having many uses in food manufacturing. So here it tells us that coconuts and coconut trees are used in many ways. Okay, we could finish the sentence by saying coconuts are also subject to problems associated with their production, right? So that's a good opening statement. So it's a good way of starting the summary because you're basically saying that, hey, coconuts are used in many, many ways. Okay, so as well as having many uses in food manufacturing, coconuts. So here from the start, we see that we are beginning to talk about the uses of coconuts and coconut trees, right? Starting with food. Just like in the passage starts with food. So our summary is going to follow the flow of the passage. So what we're going to do is we are going to first talk about the uses and then after get into the problems of production, right? And we have our notes here to help us do that. So the way that there's not much difference actually between this question here and what we're doing here in this other part of the question with the summary. It's just that what we need to do is we need to use transition words. We just need to make this flow. Here we're just writing facts. So fact 1, fact 2, fact 3. But now they're asking us to show them that we're able to take all of these facts and stick them together and write them in a way that sounds nice. And the way that we do that is by using transition words to make sure that this idea connects with this and it connects with the next one. Okay, and here they started for us. So as well as having many uses in food manufacturing, coconuts are, here I'll say coconuts, let's start with coconuts and coconut trees are used in many different ways. So this is a good way, because here you're saying, yes, coconuts are used in food manufacturing, but coconuts and coconut trees are also used in many other different ways. Okay, and I'll go ahead and I'll write a little text, so a little summary for the first half, but I'll leave the second half for you to do, just to make sure that we don't make this video too long. So here we can go on with, let's take a look at our points. So they're used in many different ways. So this is about food and food. So we can go on with the drinks. So let's start with this one, because here the sentence already acknowledges that coconuts are used in food. So it wouldn't really make sense for us to go and talk about how it's used in the same topic, which is food. We would need to move on. So right now we need to not look at 1 and 2, and we just need to start from 3 and then maybe see if we can link it back to the first 2 points. So here we will say, for example, coconuts can be used to manufacture drinks. Okay, so there we just included our third point. Now looking to include our fourth point, drinks. So now we're talking about shower gels and shampoos. So what I like to do is I like to kind of reread in my head the sentences I just wrote, just to make sure that I can keep the flow going nice and smooth. So from the top, as well as having many uses in food manufacturing, coconuts and coconut trees are used in many different ways. For example, coconuts can be used to manufacture drinks. Okay, and then here I'll say they are, I'll say it's coconut oil, right? So their oil is also used in shower gels and shampoos. And here, just to add a little more body to your sentence, some life, some excitement, a little kind of sprinkles on top of the cake, you can also just add a little extra information by saying which makes coconut an important of the beauty industry. Okay, so this here is not, you don't really need to add it, but if you're really trying to go the extra mile and really try to get as much points as you want and really make sure that you secure them, you can be a little bit original and add your own thoughts. So their oil is also used in shower gels and shampoos, which makes coconuts an important element of the beauty industry. Okay, moving forward, leaves of coconut trees, coconut trees are woven together to thatch roofs. Okay, so here we can say in the construction, right? Construction industry, leaves of coconut trees have their place. Okay, so oops, not a period here, ignore this period. So what I'm doing here is that we were just talking about coconuts in the beauty industry, right? The beauty industry. And now we see that our next point is about roofs and how leaves of coconut trees are used to thatch roofs, right? So we're going from beauty to construction and building homes, right? So that's why the next sentence, we can't just say, oh yeah, the coconuts are in your shower gels and your shampoos, but they're also on your roof. It's jumping from one topic to another very abruptly. So to make that a little smoother, I tried to just squeeze it in here, just mentioning the different industries. So their coconuts are important in the beauty industry, but in the construction industry, it's the leaves of the coconut trees that have their place. So in the beauty industry, it's the oil, but in construction, it's the leaves. So therefore, in the construction industry, leaves of coconut trees have their place as, so as kind of means because, so as they are woven together to thatch roofs. Okay. That was the leaves. Next point is timber from coconut trees is used to make houses and boats. Okay. So this next point is we see that the timber from the coconut trees is used to make houses. So houses, it's still in construction industry, right? It's just here at the end that boats, it's different. So you can do this in two ways. So you can say something like here to go on, in the construction industry, leaves of coconut trees have their place as they are woven together to thatch roofs. Okay, you can also say that in the same industry, so in the same industry means as well construction industry. The coconut tree timber is used to make houses. So in the same industry, the coconut tree timber is used to make houses. So this is good enough. You don't need to add boats if you want. But let's say that you did want to add boats. You can say in the same industry, the coconut tree timber is used to make houses. And then you can say that same timber is used to make boats as well. So another sentence here. But that is optional. Right. And another thing that I want to point out is that this question, there's 10 marks. Okay. So here, I don't think that it's a big deal to omit these 2 points, right? I think that is okay if you just want to leave it that way. But if you want to add them, you would need to think about a way to bring it back to food in your answer. All right. So as I said, I will leave the part B for you to do, but definitely if in the comments you would like to let me know how other ways that you think that I can approach this question so that it helps, that is most beneficial for you and your studying, please let me know. As we go, I'm still going to try to see if I can revisit how I'm doing things and if there's a better way that I can do things, just to make sure that you get the most out of these videos. But if you would like to let me know, please let me know because I'm doing this to help you. So whatever helps you best is what I would like to do. So technically, help me help you. All right. So now the last part for the first passage. The last question related to the first passage, I should say, is about the opinions. So then this is also very easy because we already highlighted the opinions. So we're just going to write them down. So first opinion that we found in paragraph 4, again, is monkeys have been trained to perform this task because their speed and agility, although using animals in this way is undoubtedly cruel. So here the use of this word undoubtedly, it means that this is, nobody can say anything against this. This is very cruel and no one can say otherwise. But that's not the case. It's not a fact. This is a statement that's very hard to fact check. So because some people don't think that using animals to do chores is cruel. So we'll just go ahead and copy that. I'm using wrong pen. Using animals. Undoubtedly cruel. Okay. Fifth paragraph, we have obviously everyone hopes the situation will change in the future. And again, everyone hopes. So that's hard to check, fact checked. Again, unless the writer knocked at everybody's door in the world and asked them for their opinion and everybody says the same thing, then this is again just an opinion. Okay. And then paragraph 6. However, it is clear that some people are being taken in by clever marketing. Okay, so again, it is clear that some people are being taken in by clever marketing. So this is basically the writer saying that people are being tricked and people are naive. So that is an opinion again, right? Oops, are being taken in by clever marketing. There you go. Okay, so there you have it. This was the last question of passage 1. So moving on to passage 2. And of course, before I read these, the passage, I like to take a look at the questions to see how the questions are structured because that will depend on how I will take on the passage. So here we have question 3 of the paper, question 4, question 5. And the first thing I notice is that, again, question 3 is related to paragraph 1 of passage 2. Question 4, paragraph 2, passage 2. 5, paragraph 3, passage 2. So I'm assuming that the rest is similar. Yep, 6, 4, passage 2. Question 7, paragraph 5, passage 2. Question 8, paragraph 6, passage 2. Now question 9 is 1 to 5, passage 2. And question 10 is 3 and 4, passage, paragraph 3 and 4 of passage 2. So the way that I believe this should be done is to read paragraph 1 and then answer question 3, and then read paragraph 2, answer question 2. Because if we read the whole thing, if you're going to read the whole passage, then maybe by the time that you get back to the questions, the details in paragraph 1 won't be fresh anymore in your head. Okay? Okay, so the passage is entitled Leaving Home. We'll start with paragraph 1. Okay, so the first thing that we are looking out in this paragraph is to answer the question, what did the writer often do when she was a little girl? As a little girl, I used to run, scarper, and dash off whenever I had the chance. Okay, so right there we already have our answer. The writer, as a little girl, would run, scarper, and dash off whenever she had the chance. So to keep it simple, and dash off. So scarper and dash off. I think this is enough, but you can add whenever she had the chance. Excuse my writing, it's a little bit messy. Okay, next question that we're keeping in mind is what was the mother's constant prediction? I hated to be held by the hand or expected to walk in an orderly fashion. I wanted nothing more than to be on the move with the street or the garden or the field reeling past. I was perhaps 4 or 5 years old when I first got lost, which was my mother's constant prediction every time I ran off or struggled to be free. Okay, so here already we see that the question is asking us, what was the mother's constant prediction in brackets? So it means that this is quotations directly from the text. So here we see constant prediction. So we know that our answer is somewhere in this line or the next, well, in this sentence. So I was perhaps 4 or 5 years old when I first got lost. So she's lost, which was my mother's constant prediction. So her mother's constant prediction was that the writer would get lost. the writer would get lost every time that she ran off. Okay. Moving on. The writer was fearsomely but thrillingly alone. Explain in your own words how she felt. So for this one, we don't really need the text, but I think that it's good to still read the text just to get an idea of the context. But basically, we're being asked to just, what does fearsomely but thrillingly alone, what does it mean in our own words? So we can just go on and read. I think this is the last question for the paragraph one, yeah? Okay, so we'll just finish paragraph one regardless. Where were we? We were right here. So we once visited a ruined castle on an uninhabited island, a boat ride away from the coast near our home. I had lagged behind, running up and down in zigzag formations until I found myself alone, fearsomely but thrillingly alone, on a track in the middle of a remote island. Okay, so here we see that the context of this of here, fearsomely but thrillingly alone. So the context of this specific extract here is that the writer and her family visited an island, and of course she was lagging behind, so it means that eventually she was away from her family and she ended up running again. And when she realized that she was alone, she was fearsomely but thrillingly alone. So here, the way that I would answer this question is just to look at what each words mean. And the fact that we have but in the middle, it's already telling you that these and these contradict each other. So they're supposed to be representing two different kinds of feelings, right? So when you look at fearsomely, you have right here fear, that's within that word. So fearsomely probably means that she was scared, right? And what does thrilling means? Thrilling makes me think of if you watch a lot of movies, thrillers. So that's a category. So thrillers, usually when you watch thrillers, it means that there's some sort of action or suspense, or there's some sort of excitement, and you don't know what's coming next, right? So here we see that she was scared, but thrillingly also it's exciting. It's so I'm really alone, what's going to happen, right? So that's our answer right there. So the writer felt scared but excited to be alone. Okay, and that's it for paragraph one. So the next thing is paragraph two. In paragraph two, we are looking at, the writer says, I would have to look after myself. Give the expression used later in the paragraph, which conveys the same idea. So here we know they're asking us to give an expression, so give the expression. And give the expression that conveys the same idea as I would have to look after myself. So basically, we're looking for a few words or a specific word that means I would have to look after myself. So Let's think of that while we're reading paragraph 2. I wandered, awestruck by this sudden turn of events. So now we remember that the writer is alone right now on the island, right? So I wandered, awestruck by this sudden turn of events, convinced that my family would have got the ferry back to the mainland without me, and I would have to look after myself on this wind-battered slice of land. The world was suddenly still. I could stand in the quiet of my own skin. I could hear only the crunch of my sandals on the grit and the whirring of the wind in the trees at the side of the path. So right now, just reading, I didn't get any feeling that some words are directly related to this expression here. I would have to look after myself. So I don't think that we found it yet. Okay. So we keep going. Where would I sleep? Who would tell me when to go to bed? Left to my own devices, what would I eat? Okay. So here we have it. We just found it. So here the writer is starting to ask herself some questions. Where would I sleep? Who would tell me when to go to bed? And then she says, left to my own. So here, left to my own means that I am taking care of myself and I'm on my own. Okay, so here I would have to look after myself, and left to my own, that means the same thing. Oops, you didn't see. So here, left to my own means the same thing. Left to my own. You can add devices if you want, but it's just an extra thing. Next question. Why did the writer run away from home later in childhood? Okay, we'll keep that in mind for paragraph 3. Later in childhood, I ran away from home. It was a move to which I had given a great deal of consideration, especially as to what I would take with me: a sandwich and the cat. The cause, so right there, the cause of my departure. So here, already starting by this, we know that what's coming next is going to tell us why she left. So the cause of my departure was a meal I didn't want and a disagreement about clothing. So right there, the cause, which also means the source of my departure, was a meal I didn't want and a disagreement about clothing. So here, why did the writer run away? Let's write, because of a meal that she didn't want and a disagreement about clothing. Right there. Okay. So that's question 5 for paragraph 3. And now we have question 6 that's related with paragraph 4. What was the small, misty, white bundle? Take a look. Oh, but we still have to finish paragraph 3, right? Let's just finish it. I remember rushing to the cupboard, unhooking my coat from its peg, shoving my hands with some difficulty into its unyielding woolen sleeves, and fastening the brown buttons, one by decisive one. This is it, I was thinking. I am leaving. I yanked open the door with its frosted glass, through which I had first seen my young sister approaching up the front path, held in my mother's arms, a small, misty, white bundle topped with fiery red, which turned out to be a baby with auburn hair, the closer to the house they got. That was a mouthful. So here we see that as she's running away, she yanks the door open, and the door has frosted glass on it. So because it's cold, there's a bit of fog on the glass. And through the glass, she saw her younger sister that was approaching in her mom's arms. But then here we see that she thought that her younger sister was a small, misty white bundle topped with fairy red, which turned out to be a baby, that she realized her sister was not a small misty white bundle, but it was an actual human being. Yes, so we have our answer right there. What was the small misty white bundle? So it was her younger sister. You could say a baby, or another way to say it is writer's younger sister. Okay. Why do you think the writer describes the bundle as misty? Okay. So then here they're really wanting to know if we know what misty means. So what does misty mean? Misty means kind of blurry. So it's a little bit, you can think of mysterious, right? It's not directly related to mysterious, but you can't tell exactly what it is. It's blurry. You're not sure. Okay, and here this question is slightly a little bit tricky, because here we have misty, but it requires for you to consider the context of that whole entire sentence. This is a very long sentence, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. So here we have the word misty, but we have to think about, why was the baby looking misty? And the reason why is here at the beginning. She says, I yanked open the door with its frosted glass. So if we remember, frosted glass, through which, so she saw her younger sister through a frosted glass. So it means that the glass had some it means that the glass had some frost on it. It was blurry. She couldn't see well. So why do you think the writer describes the bundle as misty? It's because she saw, excuse my writing, that is supposed to be a W. She saw the bundle through frosted glass. Okay. Why do you think the writer let the door slam with a satisfying thud? So this is paragraph 4. Go on. I stepped through that door, letting it slam with a satisfying thud, and I was off down the path through the rickety white gate and along the pavement, my legs racing under me, my shoes scuffed, always scuffed, no matter how often they were polished, clattering past the neighbors' gardens and slumbering curbside cats. Okay, this was a long sentence as well. So this whole paragraph is essentially 2 really long sentences. Okay, so here, if we remember the question, why do we think that the writer let the door slam with a satisfying thud? So I don't know about you, but have you ever, for me, I've experienced if you're really mad and you close the door, when you're mad, you usually close the door harder and with more power than when you're not mad, right? So if we think of this situation, the writer is running away from home. She's leaving, and she's leaving because, if we go back, why is she leaving? Because of a meal that she didn't want and a disagreement. So she's not happy when she's leaving. So why is the thud satisfying? It's because she's angry. So when you're angry, you usually want to break something or yell at someone maybe, but in this case, slamming the door was satisfying for the writer. So here, because the writer is angry. Okay. Explain why it was ironic that the writer stopped at the crossroads. Okay. So here we're looking at why it was ironic. So what does ironic mean? Ironic means contradicting. So contradicting, strange. You could also think of paradoxical. So a paradox, so it means, yes, contradicting. And that is found in paragraph 5. So let's go ahead and read that. Ironically, I stopped at the crossroads, watching the cars go by. This way, wait, did we skip something? Sorry. No. Sorry. Okay. So ironically, I stopped at the crossroads, watching the cars go by. This was the limit of my solitary world, and as far as I was permitted to go alone. My older sister and I would loiter here on occasion, longing for my father to come home from work if we had important news to impart. The death of a pet fish, the arrival of a visitor, my sister leaping off the sofa and hitting her nose on the side of the bookcase. Okay, so here, right at the beginning, we have our answer. So the writer says that she ironically, so the question used the word ironic, right? So ironically, she stopped at the crossroads, watching the cars go by. So she's running away, but she stops at the crossroads. And then she says, This was the limit of my solitary world, and as far as I was permitted to go alone. And then she goes on to talk about her sister and herself waiting for her father to come home at the crossroads. So why is this weird or contradicting is we know that the writer is running away, right? So if you're running away, you want to go as far as you can, and you don't stop where you're told to stop, right? So you're trying to not listen to your parents and run away, but then you're going to stop where your parents would want you to stop. It's ironic. So it's a contradicting. If you really want to go, you don't stop, right? You just keep going. So there's our answer. Okay, so here I will say it is ironic because the writer is running away, but stops, oops, but stops where, and here it's important to copy this part, as far as I was permitted to go alone. Okay, so she stops where she was permitted to go alone. Okay, so it is ironic because the writer is running away but stops where she was permitted to go alone. Maybe here, if you really want this answer to be complete, you can add something but stops as far. So I would just replace, let me use a different color actually, just to edit my answer if you want a better answer. So here I would just, yeah. So I would replace this part here. I would replace with as far as there. So this is a little more correct, but the black answer is good, but if you just want to replace this with the red, this with the red part, it's just slightly better in my opinion. So it is ironic because the writer is running away but stops as far as she was permitted to go alone instead of where. It's up to you though. I think you would get full marks either way. Next question. Which two things about her mother's appearance show how upset she was? So here we're thinking about the mom's appearance, and it's important to think about appearance, so specifically physically, right? Paragraph 5. I was standing here wondering whether my leaving home would mean that I was now no longer bound by my family's rules when my mother caught up with me. She had run from the house in her bare feet. For a moment, I saw her bearing down on me. I thought she was angry, that I was in terrible trouble. However, her face was wet with tears. Unexpectedly, she caught me in a close, enveloping embrace and murmured, "Don't go, don't go," into my hair. Okay, so here I noticed two things. So the writer was at the crossroad standing, and she was wondering if she should go further than the crossroads or not. Okay, and then that's when her mom caught up to her. So the writer saw that her mom ran from her house with bare feet. So right here, bare feet. So usually when you leave your house, right, if you're going out, you usually put shoes on. But in this case, her mom was trying to run after her and get her back, so she didn't think about putting shoes. So this shows you how upset her mom was. Because if you leave running and you don't think about putting your shoes on, you must be in a very stressful situation. Then she goes on to say that she thought that her mom was angry and that she was in trouble. But then she realized that her mom's face was wet with tears. So here again, wet with tears. So her mom is really upset. So two things, right? So, trying to keep this straight for you. So, her mother's appearance. So, her mom left the house bare feet. And then her mom's face was wet with tears. C. When the writer was found, what did her mother do with which surprised the writer? So I believe that we already read that part. So here we saw that she thought that she was in terrible trouble, but then her mom's face was wet with tears. And then unexpectedly, so unexpectedly, it means that the writer didn't see it coming. And the question was, what did her mother do that's surprised? So surprised and unexpectedly go together. So unexpectedly, she caught me in a close, enveloping embrace and murmured, "Don't go, don't go." So this is your answer. Into my hair, but that's just a detail. So copy and paste. Her mom caught her in a close embrace. Her mom caught her in a close enveloping embrace and murmured, "Don't go." It's a capital D, but who cares? Don't go, don't go. Like this. Okay, question 6. The writer says, her grip on my shoulder transmitted her awareness that I was always going to leave. Explain in your own words what is happening here. So again, for questions like this style, we're given the exact passage, right? So extract of the passage. We don't really need to read, but it's good to read just for context, right? So let's go ahead with paragraph 6. I was reminded of this moment when almost 2 decades later, I said goodbye to her as I was leaving to work on the other side of the world. We were on the station platform and my train was approaching. I was about to get on it and I wouldn't be back for a long, long time. My mother didn't tell me not to go, but her grip on my shoulder transmitted her awareness that I was always going to leave, that we both knew that the urge had always been in me. Okay, so here we see that there's a time jump from 5 and 6. So the writer at the end of paragraph 5 is her mom telling her, don't go, don't run away. And then paragraph 6, now it's 2 decades later. So 2 decades, 1 decade is 10 years, 2 decades is 20 years, right? So 20 years later, she's getting ready to leave. She's probably all grown up and she's going in a different country, different continent to work. And she says later on that her mother didn't tell me not to go, but her grip on my shoulder transmitted her awareness that I was always going to leave. Right? So now, when we're being asked, explain in your own words what is happening here. So her mom places her hand on her shoulder, right? This is not my shoulder, but just so you get the feeling, like the way she's grabbing her is just saying, I knew you were always going to go. So it's her mom understanding, or she's acknowledging the fact that her daughter would always leave. So here, what is happening here? So your writer's mother is acknowledging that she was going to eventually leave. Okay, so here we have acknowledging. This is a W-N. I really butchered this word, but it's acknowledging. Okay, so the writer's mother is acknowledging that she was going to eventually leave. Another way you could say this is the writer's mother is realizing that her daughter would always leave, or she is understanding that she was going to eventually leave. Okay, so that is done, where we've read every paragraph, and now we are moving on to question 9. So question 9 is regarding paragraph 1 to 5. For each words below, circle the letter A, B, C, or D, which has the same meaning that the word has in the passage. So here we have one word that we can find. So fashion, which is somewhere in line 2, and we need to find which word can we replace, can we use instead of fashion? So basically we're looking for synonyms. Okay, so this is in line 2. So line 2 is here. Okay, it's a part of this sentence, so we'll go from the top. As a little girl, I used to run, scarper, and dash off whenever I had the chance. I hated to be held by the hand or expected to walk in an orderly fashion. So orderly fashion. Here what we can do is we can just do a fill in the blank and try to take each of these words quickly and replace it and see how it sounds. And we can do proceed by elimination. See if it makes sense or not. So orderly trend. Doesn't really make sense to me because trend is more pattern. So orderly trend, orderly pattern doesn't make sense. Okay, orderly shape doesn't really make sense either. So walk in an orderly shape, no, walk in an orderly way, that makes sense. Walk in an orderly look, that really doesn't make sense. So I think that the best thing to say in this situation is to walk in an orderly way. Circle this one here. Okay, so now we're at uninhabited in line 5. Uninhabited, here it is. Okay, we once visited a ruined castle on an uninhabited island. Okay, so elimination again. On an empty island. That makes sense. Uninhabited means that there's nothing there. So empty also means that there's nothing there. So we could do the other ones too, even though I really think that empty is probably our answer. On an bare island. So bare island. Doesn't make sense to me, no? On a lonely island. No, doesn't make sense either. Lonely. On a wild island. So wild doesn't make sense either. So the best option in this case is empty. Okay, so unyielding. Oops, nope. It's frantically. Line 15. So here, can you see, or is it? Yeah, I think you can see. Okay, so frantically is right here. Then some ladies found me and took me back to the quay where my family had been frantically looking for me. So frantic means in panic. So when you're frantic, you're like, oh my goodness, you know, you're very panicked, right? So here, let's take a look. So where my family had been carefully. Yeah, I think we could find better. Where my family had been desperately. Desperate and frantic seems like they go well together. Where my family had been eagerly. So eager means a lot of motivation. You're very, like you have a lot of ambition. But here they were frantic. Frantic, you're kind of all over the place. But eagerly doesn't really mean all over the place like frantic does. So, let's keep going. Forcefully. So forcefully means that you're forcing something, right? So where my family had been forcefully looking for me. No, don't think it makes sense either. So here, based on elimination, forcefully, nope. Carefully, nope. Eagerly, desperately. Definitely go with desperately, because desperate and frantic are very close synonyms. So in both cases, when you're desperate, you're really at your ends, and yeah, you're quite frantic. So this. All right, unyielding, 20. Oops. Okay. So here, unyielding. Let's see if we have 20 in the shot here. Okay. So first word is rough. Unyielding is here. Shoving my hands with some difficulty into this unyielding woolen sleeves. It's unyielding woolen sleeves. Okay, so first thing we're going is rough. So into it's rough. Maybe it's a good contender. Let's keep going. Into it's strict woolen sleeves. So strict, I really don't think so. Into it's stiff woolen sleeves. That as well is a good one. Into it's harsh woolen sleeves. Harsh, no, don't think so. And here, harsh and rough are pretty similar to one another. So if it was rough, I would kind of think that it would be harsh too. So the fact that these are very similar and it can only be one would make me think, okay, so it's neither of them. So now we're left with strict and stiff. And strict just does not make sense, so stiff it is. Loiter, line 30. So here, my older sister and I would loiter here. So loiter, what does loiter mean? Loiter means, you're just hanging around there. You're wasting time. Not wasting time, but you're just killing time, I would say. So let's look for a word. So my sister and I we would rest there. So no, loitering does not mean resting. We would sit, doesn't mean sitting. Run does not mean running. Wait, yes. So loiter and waiting are very, they're synonyms. So wait it is. So there we have it. Our answers for question 9. We have one last question for this paper. Reread paragraphs 3 and 4, which contain phrases about A, the writer's coat, and B, the writer's shoes. Explain the meaning of each phrase as it is used and the effect of each phrase as it is used. Okay, so fastening the brown buttons one by decisive one. If we look back to context, line 20 and 21. So here I remember this is when she's running away from home, and she's putting on her clothes, and then she says, when she's putting on the coat, she's fastening the brown buttons one by decisive one. Okay, so let's take a look at what this means. The meaning, so what is she doing, right, in the situation? She's fastening the brown buttons one by one. So she's putting on her coat, right? So writer is, here we're talking about buttons specifically, so we can say she's buttoning up her coat, or you can say she's putting on her coat. Okay, and then we're talking about the effect now. One by decisive one. Okay, so it means that every time that she's fastening one button, it means that she's becoming more sure and sure about her decision, and she's confident in what she's doing, right? So the effect is that it shows confidence in running away. Okay. Part B, my shoes scuffed, always scuffed, no matter how often they were polished. Okay, so what does this mean? If somebody's shoes are scuffed, it means that there's like marks on the shoes. You know, when you get brand new shoes, they're perfect, they look good, and then after, when you go outside and you walk around a bit, you always see these little brown marks or scratches on your shoes. So here it means that the writer's shoes are scuffed, and she says that, well, they're always scuffed no matter how often they were polished. So it means that the writer's shoes shoes are always there's a few ways. They're always you can say unkept, or here, let me different color, say unkept, or you can say worn out, or you can say dirty, or you can say marked. Okay, up to you. And what is the effect? Okay, so the effect is, you know which, like for example, if you take a bunch of children, you can tell which kid is an active kid and which kid is a kid who stays home more, right? So if you just look at someone's shoes, you can tell if there's somebody who don't do much, or if there's somebody that are always wearing their shoes, so you know they're always outside probably, right? So here the effect is that it shows that the writer is an active person. So the writer is always doing something and not home a lot, basically, always playing around. And that was it. So this is the last question for paper 2. So there you have it, my friends. Just gonna grab this here. So we are done. And this was us looking at the solutions for English language paper 2 reading, variant 2-1, May-June 2020. So I hope that, again, this video was helpful for you. And please let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions, any suggestions. I'm all ears, so I definitely want to know what you think. Any thoughts that you have. Please make sure to like the video if you think I'm doing a good job, so I can keep going. And also subscribe to make sure that you're always up to date with all the new content. All right, so thank you for making it all the way till the end of this video. I hope you have a great rest of the day or great night, depending on where you are, and I'll see you in the next video.